Okay, so welcome everybody, and we have a lot to talk about today, and welcome to everybody on the stream. Antonio Estrella, hello Antonio Estrella, yes, we're back to business. Blind Fish Keeper, what a great name. Derek Timoric, hello Derek, thank you for letting me know we're good to go. And hey Denny, I'm glad you're here today. So let's go ahead and make this official. What do you say? And seeing how the sound has been resolved. If you're new to the channel and you like to watch people mess around with sound issues, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the sub button, hit the bell, and all that good stuff. And that'll tell YouTube that you like the channel, and they'll recommend it to other fish keepers. Much appreciated if you can. And some very quick announcements, my usual shout outs to the wonderful moderators, and a big shout out, of course, to the Cichlid Shack for reasons that you'll see as we go along. And another shout out to Vinny at Vinny's Aquatics. If you notice the sign right here, this thing right here, that's going to be a sign that's going to be hanging over my shoulder. And the Ben O Cichlid Ochart part will be backlit. And it'll have a dim switch, so it can be dimly backlit. There'll be a background light that comes off the back of the sign that will create a very light blue glow around the sign. And you notice that the middle of the, or the bottom writing has been changed so that it's not exclusively African cichlids, because the channel has changed. So it's just about cichlids. So at any rate, I love that new design that Vinny came up with. We're going to go ahead and offer that on t-shirts and sweatshirts and hats as we go along. And it'll probably be hanging somewhere back here. And I don't know how big it's going to be. We'll see. We'll work out the size with Vinny, but that's exciting. And I can't wait to see that. So let's talk a little bit about the new fish, and the new fish are just very, very exciting. And I put an order in. What I did is I put an order in with James over at the Cichlid Shack, and we started talking, and he said, "I'm going to send you some extras." Now, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, there'll be maybe a few extra fish, and he sent me just the mother load of fish, and you can see a lot of them right over my shoulder right here, and I made a little video that I can share with you here. This is I called it a Meet the Fish video, and hey David, welcome to your first live stream. So let's see here. Here we go. So you can see here some of these are some of my all-time favorites. Like you can see that that Johnson I Solo, and some people might call him John Stoney I Solo, depending how you want to pronounce it. And you can see the this flametail who arrived. He's been a little beat up. He looks a lot better today. This was filmed the morning after they arrived, and today he's actually looking a lot better. He's actually looking a lot better, and I'll show him to you as we go along here. But some of the fish, you know, it's the usual kind of thing you see in a cichlid tank when fish arrive. There's a battle for pecking order, and whether it's pecking order or territories or dominance or things of this nature. And so I've seen some of that, and the flametail kind of took the brunt of it, mostly from that fish right there. That's the pharynx that you're seeing right there. with that beautiful orangey blaze. And the pharynx is the most aggressive of the ones that I received. And he's picking on the fish, but even that's settling down a little bit right now. It's a flavescent, and boy, I'm in love with that Johnson Eye Solo. One of my favorite all-time fish. The strawberry that was used originally just to sort of test out the tank that I picked up from Petco is actually also one of the most aggressive fish. He doesn't like the fact that a lot of fish have come in and he's battling for territory and going after fish, and it's just it's real funny because he's about half the size of everybody else, but he's chasing them around, and I think that'll change as the fish start to realize that they're actually twice as big as he is. There's the let's see here. There's the pharynx again, and you saw the there's a flavescent, the bicolor 500, the deep water, the albino strawberry. There's also a Eureka Red. That's the one that was on a second ago, the Eureka Red. Beautiful fish. And the Autopharynx tetrastigma. For those of you who've been following my my channel for a long time, you know that I'm absolutely in love with Autopharynx tetrastigmas. And he sent me a very, very nice one. So this was the morning after they arrived, and when you get a big shipment of fish like that, you know, there's a Skittles, that little OB Skittles, like the candy. Anyway, the morning after, you kind of hold your breath and hope that everybody is doing great, and that usually is the morning after. And if you look over my shoulder here, I'll see if I can enlarge it a little bit. You can see the tank is relatively peaceful. There have been no casualties. No one's died. Certainly there was some concern about an ammonia spike. Usually the most I'll add at a time is like 6 small fish at a time. Well, this is like a dozen good sized fish. And so I was a little bit concerned about ammonia. So there have been regular water changes, and I've been adding bacteria, and I've been adding water conditioner on a regular basis just to make sure that I don't get anything unusual. The fish over here in the other tank, in my in the South American tank, they're doing great. Let me get that enlarged a little bit. All of those guys are doing great. Nobody was added to that tank. I had a good number of fish in there. I didn't want to risk anything. So the fish that are going to be going into that tank were actually quarantined. But the fish in the South American tank, the Geophagus, the AC Hecli, the red-spotted Severum, they're all doing really, really well. I also have, of course, the quarantine tank. Let me see if I can get this camera to go over there. You see that brown stand right there? There's a brown stand, if you can see it right there. That brown stand is where the 90-gallon tank is going to go. But behind it, I had to set up an emergency quarantine tank. And in that tank is our two red shoulders, two Severum red shoulders, two viejas. One of the viejas is a complete jerk, and a starry night, and a couple small little plecos that are doing their best to hide. The Severums are doing great. The viejas, one vieja is really picking on the other one, so I'm going to have to keep a close eye on that. And the other one's looking a bit stressed. But if you saw the video where I set this up, on the right there, you'll notice there's a little bag, a mesh bag, that's full of media from one of the established tanks. And that's what got that tank going immediately. I just put some media in there. So I had an instant 29-gallon tank. So Ruben Rivera comes through with $5. Thank you, Ruben, for that. I appreciate that. Hey, I got a special announcement for you. The biggest super chat today, is going to get a $25 Cichlid Shack gift certificate. How's that? $25 gift certificate. And just as a thank you, just to give something back, James gave me some gift certificates to give away. And so I'm going to go ahead and give them to you. So today's top super chat, and for those of you that are not familiar, at the bottom of the chat, there's an option where you can throw a little dough at the channel to help out the channel. And so today's largest super chat gets a $25 gift certificate that I will mail to you. And doesn't matter how much your super chat is. If you're the top super chat, you get the $25. All right? So just to make it interesting. Now, let me take up some of your questions about what's going on here. I'm going to go back a little bit on the... and thank you for those of you who arrived early and put up with the sound issues that were occurring at the beginning. And I hope they haven't come back. Let's see here. Lewis, it looks like Lewis Vix GG is asking, how many African cichlids can I keep in a 125? Well, you know, I have that sort of cliche that I say every now and then, that it's a fluid situation. It is a fluid situation. What kind of cichlids? Cichlids that get very large, average, medium-sized cichlids, small cichlids. What kind of filtration are you going to have? Are you going to have a sump? Are you going to run a couple canisters? Are you going to put a hang-on back and a canister, 2 hang-on backs? You have a lot of moving parts in your question. And so anyone who just throws out a number at you and, 25, they're not really helping you. You have to really look at, like if you put, let's say you put some trouts and a Venusis, some Livingstoni, some polystigmas, fish that get over 10 inches, you're probably going to need between 6 and 10 probably and they're still going to need a little more swim space. If you want to go with fish like this, these kind of fish, You could probably have 20 of them, with enough filtration, enough, a couple canisters, a hang on back, 60% water changes once a week. You could go with a good number. So it depends on your maintenance schedule. Depends on the type of fish, right? Things of that nature. How often you do your water changes, how big those water changes are. So again, you have a lot of moving parts to consider. So I hope that answers your question. I know it's not a definitive answer because there really isn't one number fits all. Like people go, well, 1 inch per gallon. You go buy a bunch of 1-inch fish. Those 1-inch fish turn into 15-inch fish. So it looks like someone else jumped in on a super chat. Let me see here. Ruben, I said thank you for yours. And it looks like we had another one from GP. Coffee money for Ben for $10. Thank you, GP. I appreciate that. And the Irishman wants to know where I got the Beware of Cichlid sign. The Beware Cichlid sign is at my Amazon store. So if you go to amazon.com/shop/Ben Ochart, the sign is there. And you can get Beware Cichlids. It originally was a gift from my son. And my oldest son gave it to me. I thought it was very cool. Evan Rifkind. Ben, have you been to the aquarium restaurant in Nashville? It says here the aquariums are amazing. The food, I haven't. Do you know the name of it? What is the name of it? Is it just called the aquarium restaurant? Because I'd love to do that. I went to one in Seattle. There's I think it was at the Seattle Aquarium, where all the walls were just, the side of one of their big tanks. And I thought that was kind of cool. Kind of fun eating like you're underwater. And then they had this mermaid, a mermaid that would come out and feed all the fish, with an air, with an air tube. She would be down there and feed all the fish. And so they had this, this pretty gal swimming around, and so it's quite a meal. But no, I haven't been to that restaurant. Got to put it on my bucket list. Let's see here. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask them. I'll be happy to take them up. I'm looking at the chat. Hi, Lynette. Thank you for coming by from Wales. Your first time watching the channel. I appreciate you being here. If you just came here, you missed all the excitement. We had some sound issues, but they were resolved finally. It's called the Aquarium Restaurant. Thanks, Evan. I'm going to check that out. And thank you, GP, for reminding folks to hit that like button. It looks like somebody has a bicolor 500 with some growths on the body. Lymphocystis. I guess it's like cysts that show up on the body. And I'm not sure if those actually can be treated. I don't know if they're bacterial or what's the source of them. If they were contagious, of course, other fish would have them as well. I've heard of folks doing surgery on fish and removing things like that. I don't know. It's that's a tough one. That's a real tough one. I'd have to do some research, right? Do a little research on the disease itself. I've just heard that it really, a lot of water changes, fresh water, and to catch the fish, I would suggest putting, if you can, lower the water level. I know it's a big tank. Lower the water level, put in some dividers. I usually will use fluorescent light diffusers. You can buy those fluorescent light diffusers. They're like a checkerboard pattern. I cut those to shape. I use them as dividers. I lower the water level. Otherwise, you're right, the fish are impossible to catch, especially if you have a lot of decor. So, is it contagious? If it's contagious, you better get them out of there quick, or you might already have it. You probably have to treat the whole tank. A tank that large, if you're going to have to medicate it with something like a General Cure or a Metroplex, you're going to be paying a fortune in medication. So, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'm going to take off the Super Chat prize, but bear in mind, the biggest Super Chat does get a $25 gift certificate from the Cichlid Shack, from our friend James Largo at the Cichlid Shack. Antonio wants to know how long I've had my electric blue. I recently purchased one 2 months ago, and so far so good. Yeah, I've had him for about a month or so. You know, I haven't had him a long time. He's one of the first fish I put into the 55, the South American 55. So I do understand that they do have some genetic issues, and so they don't live as long as a regular Jack Dempsey. I also understand that they grow kind of slow. This one is real frisky, real active, always has his fins spread out, is not intimidated by any of the fish in there, even though the fish are twice his size. So I've got high hopes. What he lacks in size, he makes up in attitude, and he's a beautiful fish. He's a very beautiful fish. When I first got him, a lot of folks were telling me, Ben, you know, they're not strong, they have poor genetics. I get it. I understand. Fingers crossed. I hope he has a long life, as long as can be expected. So let's see here. Kane Pro, all of the sudden, I got some aggressive action in my cichlid tank. Do I need to remove the females? Do you see breeding type behavior? Are you seeing pits? Are you seeing nests being made? Are you seeing fish circle each other in their little breeding dance? That might be the issue. You might need to take females out. I've had all male cichlid tanks. They're still aggressive. Was it right after a water change? Or right after some type of a shift? That, for some reason, can trigger something in African cichlids, and they go a little crazy. You'll see males pair up and do the little breeding dance. You'll see sometimes a fight for dominance in the tank. Someone will go after the tank boss. After a water change, sometimes in the tank I used to have, the eye biter would go after the Venusus. And so if it continues, if it gets violent, you can try taking out the females. You can try taking out the most violent fish, put them in a quarantine tank for a month, rearrange your decor, put them back in, see if that makes a difference. You know, I've said it before, these fish, they have a little switch that'll flip in their little fish brain, and all of a sudden they go crazy, and there's no rhyme or reason for it. There's nothing that makes sense about it. So I hope that helps. It's like, you roll the dice with these fish. It really is. It really is a roll the dice. Thank you for that super chat, Tony. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot for getting me in the right track with my expert Matic. All sorted, and 2 of them are on the way. That's awesome. Tony wanted one, but he's in the UK, and he couldn't find a way to get it. So I had him talk directly to the folks at Expert Matic, and Expert Matic arranged to get him the filter. By the way, on the Expertmatic, if you're getting a lot of micro bubbles, if you noticed in the video, if you noticed in this video that I shared with you, the Meet the Fish video, I don't know if you can see them, but there's micro bubbles. And those micro bubbles are coming from the Expertmatic. What I did this morning is I turned there's a valve on the Expertmatic. So that when the air comes out, there's a blade that guides the air. And I had it so that the solid side was on top and it was open on the bottom, so it was shooting the bubbles into the tank. What I did is I turned that over and I tilted it slightly up. So I turned it over and tilted it slightly up. And now the micro bubbles, if you can see behind me here, let me go ahead and remove the... If you see behind me, the micro bubbles have cleared up. There's still some, but it's not as snowy, doesn't have as snowy a look as it did. Let me see if I can get you in closer. It's not as snowy as it looked yesterday. Yeah, there were a lot of micro bubbles, and it was kind of detracting from the look of the tank. So Tony, anybody who has that Expertmatic, it can be fixed by flipping the blade over, pointing it up so the bubbles are going mostly up, and you'll still get the oxygen exchange that you're looking for. You'll still get water movement, and you just will not get as much micro bubbles. All right, let's see here. Leon says life is good, Ben. It is good. Tony wants to know about Driftwood. I have been told that Driftwood can impact pH. It can lower the pH. I've never run an experiment or a test on it. I don't have the science behind it, but the sort of conventional wisdom is that Driftwood is not necessarily, it's not recommended for an African cichlid tank. My Driftwood right now is in my South American tank. I have three pieces of driftwood in there. So I would just watch it. Run your tests, even if it's just using the little the 6-in-1 strips. Run your test. Watch it for about 2 months, and see if it changes. The truth is that you're probably taking it back. If you're doing weekly water changes, you're probably going to be adjusting it back to the pH in the area that you're in, right? You're going to be sort of jolting it a little bit. You never want a big pH shift because that's very hard on your fish. But you're probably always going to be taking it back to a certain point with your water changes gradually, ideally. So I wouldn't necessarily. I wouldn't be extremely worried about it, but watch it. Watch it. Use your test strips and watch it. I've never used a real driftwood in an African cichlid tank, but I love it. I love the look of it, and I am using it in the South American tank. Somebody wants to see Francie. You want to see that? You want to see the? Let's see if we can see the pharynx. Look at that Z-Rock. I love Z-Rocks. Very shy, very peaceful. A good fish for, if you want a tank that's relatively peaceful. So Eureka Red, the Flavescent. Some of these you can see. Oh, there's the Flametail, who's taken a few shots. Let me see if we can get, there's Skittles. The OB. There's the Phoenix. Is that the Phoenix, bottom left? Or is that the Flavescent? Let's see here. The Phoenix, the camera doesn't do him justice. The Phoenix actually has a bit of a purple tinge. Let's try and get him to come up here. There he is right there. That's the Phoenix. In person, he looks a lot more purple. You think I'm going to feed him? Pharynx, tetrastigma, Johnsonite Solo, Skittles, Deep Water. It's bicolor 500. This bicolor 500, I'm not sure if you can see him. This bicolor 500 is spectacular. So there you gotta look at them. All right. So any more questions? Let's go ahead and throw them out there. Fraser Fish, thanks for the great content, Ben. 5 months in and loving this hobby. Always learning and patience are my key takeaways. My 125-gallon AC tank is on its way. That's exciting, Fraser. I love, I love those kinds of projects, as you probably have noticed. And for me, it's like you have this canvas, and you're a painter, and you have this canvas, and you're going to get to work on it, right? You got your colors, and you got your anyway. So you pick your substrate, pick your plants, pick your rocks, put them together, arrange them, pick your fish, and it really is like putting together a piece of artwork. And I love it. I love it. So congratulations and good luck on that project. It's going to be, you have a lot of fun in your future there. And you're welcome for the content. My pleasure. And GP makes a good comment there about pH. A lot of the fish that we buy are bred, they're bred locally, and they're on their 100th generation of and they've been bred in pH that's local, or a pH that is not necessarily at the level of what you'd find necessarily in Lake Malawi. So they can tolerate a range. What you don't want with pH is a shift. A shift is very hard on the fish, and so that's probably more of a concern than than having it drop a little bit from using something like, let's say, Driftwood. It looks like we have a discussion on worms. I've been feeding bloodworms to the South American cichlids, but I have not fed any worms to the ACs, to the African cichlids. African cichlids tend to have an issue with bloat, and so I stay away from that kind of a super heavy protein that they're going to overeat. They're going to gorge on it. So I stay away from bloodworms with the ACs. But I have been feeding bloodworms to the once a week to the South Americans. They love them. And Kenneth Dungy comes through with $15. Thank you, Kenneth. I appreciate the super chat. And don't forget, the top super chat today receives a $25 gift certificate. Be sure to send me your, if you are the top one, Candi, you're great at this. So's GP. All the moderators are, really. But Candi, since you're my GP, my moderator in charge, along, if you could just let me know who had the biggest super chat. Send me your email and or email me at ben.o.cichlid@gmail.com. Let's just do it that way. If you are the top super chatter today. And thank you, Ken. I appreciate that. Let's see here, Lynette. Lynette is asking about 230 liter tank gravel at the minimum. What's the best change? Well, it depends what kind of fish you have there, Lynette. If you have cichlids, you know, cichlids love to sift sand, and certainly with my South Americans, the geophagus, they are sand sifters, and they run that sand, right, sometimes all the way through their gill plates. And so if it's something coarse or something that irritates, it's not good. So you want to go with a nice soft sand. This is sort of a medium grade here that they pick up and spit out. In the South American tank where I have the geos, it's a very, very fine sand because the geos are constantly cycling it through. I like, with my African cichlid tanks, I like aragonite. The aragonite will release minerals into the water. It'll keep that pH nice and stable, help prevent a tank crash, and really mineralize that water and keep the water nice and hard. So that's my substrate of choice. I like Caribbean Sea. Caribbean Sea, I think they like tumble or do something with their substrate so that it doesn't have any sharp, any sharpness to it, anything that is abrasive. I've heard, and I haven't verified this, look into it, but some people use blasting sand, even play sand. I've heard can have a little bit of an abrasive quality to it. So if you have fish that are sifting a lot, over time you might create some irritation. That irritation can then allow maybe a bacteria or something to infect the fish, and then you're off to the races with an infection. So I like the Caribbean Sea products. They don't sponsor my channel. They're just a product that I love. I do show them at my Amazon store, the amazon.com/shop/Ben Ochart. I do like the Caribbean Sea products a lot. Hey, Irishman, send me your address, ben.o.cichlid@gmail. I've never met an Irishman I didn't like. All right, so let's see here. Mandalore Ale says no issues. Okay, no issues with Black Diamond. So there you go. You know, this stuff floats around. You hear it here and there. Sometimes it's based on knowledge, and sometimes it's just somebody throwing it out there, and it becomes sort of like an urban legend. You know, you mentioned Caribbean Sea and Fraser fish. You mentioned Caribbean Sea. This tank, I lost one fish I lost the firemouth in the South American tank. That tank, as it was cycling, was not as stable as this tank. And I think one of the reasons that occurred was because the Caribbean Sea cichlid mix, I think they call it Eco Complete. It comes with a bunch of bacteria in it, and so between that and the Fritzyme 7, I was able to do a huge jump start. And I think that really helped to really get the tank going. So you buy the Caribbean Sea with the beneficial bacteria in it. You don't wash it. You just put it in, and then you put a plate, and then pour your water in so it hits the plate, so that it doesn't really get all the fog going, and doesn't fog up your water. Didn't have any cloudy water at all, and no new tank syndrome, nothing. So, and it was much more stable. Even though both tanks were getting the same doses of water conditioner, I was using Fritz Complete, and I was also using Seachem Prime, and also using the Fritz 7 product. So Fritzyme 7. So this tank ended up being the more stable tank. Now, is that absolute science? Maybe that little fire mouth was weak. I'll tell you one thing, the strawberry in here is that I picked up at Petco, PetSmart, is a beast. He's a little beast. I mean, he's pushing around these big fish, and he's just a super robust fish, which is surprising because I got him at a big box store. So a lot of moving parts. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce your name. I'm just going to call you SM. Thank you so much, SM from India, for being a subscriber. And I'm glad I was able to influence you into getting into cichlids. It's a wonderful addiction. So let's see here. Yeah, Kenneth Dungy, 125 gallon with 125 pounds of crushed aragonite. I think it's the perfect substrate. Now, some people argue that if they live in an area that is super hard water, do you need a substrate that's going to be releasing minerals into the water? You could make an argument. You could make an argument for that. I think it's. I think it helps, and again, this is one man's opinion. I think it helps with stability. You get stability. You know, you have that constant, slow release of minerals. Also, one of the reasons that you do your water changes, right, is to replace minerals, because minerals in the water column, they settle. They'll settle. And the only minerals that your fish get are the minerals that they're able to pull out of the water. So if you take a long time between water changes and you don't remineralize with a water change, there's a chance that your fish can go mineral deficient, right? And they'll have issues. They'll have internal issues. So one of those reasons why you do water changes, that is not just to reduce nitrates. So if this steady release of minerals is going on with aragonite, that can give you a little bit of wiggle room for that 1 week where you went on vacation and you had to skip a water change. So again, a little bit of backup there, which I think is good. All right, let's see. The Irishman, I quit smoking. A healthy addiction, I quit that. I'll tell you something. There's something therapeutic about fish keeping, and I've heard from several people who are having issues with anxiety, depression, different forms of addiction. And being able to sit in front of a tank and relax has actually helped them to be better. So Mad Cypress LL, you're awesome. You're awesome. Crushed coral, Aaron Walker, crushed coral is a great substrate and does the same thing as an aragonite, but it usually comes in big pieces, like pieces of shell. It's not going to be just crushed. They take shell and they crush it up, They put some coral in there and they crush it up and they call it crushed coral. So you're going to have some big pieces. So so then it's not as ideal for a sifting fish. I had it for years in my other tanks, and I loved watching the African cichlids carry the pieces around, especially when they were nest building. So I like crushed coral. I like it a lot. If you can find a crushed coral that's really crushed and in a finer particle, as opposed to the big shells that very often Caribbean Sea, what you'll get is you'll get pieces of shell that can be as big as half an inch. And they'll call it crushed coral. So anyway, I'm liking the aragonite. I think it's a little bit, just my opinion, my preference. I will say when I had crushed coral, I loved watching the fish carrying it around. Now, did I miss a super chat? Let's see here. Richard Maloney. Richard Maloney, $12.50. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for that. Ron Foss, fish housekeeper. I have a mix of crushed coral and Eco Complete in most of my African cichlid tanks, and my AC hospital quarantine tank works great. The Anubias can send roots if they don't get chewed. There you go. So yeah, that would be an interesting mix, I think. I think that would be a very workable mix for a cichlid tank. And yeah, it does give you some room there for roots to expand. And I had trouble with Anubias. My bigger cichlids ate up the Anubias. And now I'm finding pieces of Anubias and Java fern floating around in the South American tank. So I'm not sure if plants are really in my future. So I may have to stick with the Elite Cichlids artificial plants. That's what you see in the South American tank is Elite Cichlids. And these are Elite Cichlids behind me here. Those are Elite Cichlid plants. And, I invite my African cichlids to chew on them all they want. Even though I did have to do surgery. I once had a piece of plant break off. It went down and got stuck in the throat of a hawk, a Malawi hawk. He was swimming around with his mouth open, just like, his mouth was just like this, swimming around. I'm going, oh, that's not right. I pulled him out and I looked in with a flashlight and he had a plant down his throat, got some tweezers and pulled the thing out. And I was very proud of myself. So let's see here. Can I put live rock in an African cichlid tank? Live rock, now isn't live rock what they usually use in a saltwater tank to help promote bacteria and maybe add coral to it? And isn't that usually used in a saltwater setup? I'm not sure. I've never used what they call live rock per se. So if you know about using live rock and you're on the chat, can you go ahead and let Ken know about live rock? Hey, Cat Sailor. Cat Sailor wants to know about these evaporation, the evaporation plastic parts. You can't see them. I don't know if you can see here. These are very simple, very light plastic evaporation sheets that are sitting on top of the tank. They prevent water and moisture from getting on the light fixtures. They hold in the water, so I don't have, I haven't had to top off these tanks once, so they're not losing water, on evaporation. So I picked them up on eBay. Now, I do show an Amazon link at my store on Amazon, but in all honesty, I found them for less on eBay. So you might want to check eBay. And I think I even say in the comments at the Amazon store, here they are, but check eBay because you might get a better price. Even though the channel doesn't get anything with your eBay purchase, Amazon gives us a small percentage. If I missed a super chat, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get to as many of your questions as I can. And I'm scrolling through. One of the nice things about keeping wood in your African cichlid tank, if you find that it doesn't reduce your pH, is that there are certain plecos that love to munch on wood, and they need that wood in their digestion, in their digestive system. So if you want plecos, certain kinds of plecos, having a little wood in there is a good idea. And I don't think they destroy the wood. I think it would take them a very long time to actually make a noticeable, reduction in your wood. Some of these wood pieces, especially the ones that I've picked up like at Critters, aquatic critters, that are attached to a piece of slate, those pieces of driftwood, they can be $35, $45, $55 for a very nice piece of driftwood attached to a piece of slate. So when my friends over at Elite Cichlids offered to send me some real driftwood attached to a piece of slate with some of their artificial plants, I did not hesitate. It took me 1 second to think about it. So yes, send them, please. My friends over at Elite Cichlids. If you buy anything from Elite Cichlids, be sure to ask them for the Ben Ochart discount. All right. So in scanning through the chat, it looks like Ken Dungy at $15 is the top super chatter, unless someone nips him here at the finish line. And so send me your address to ben.o.cichlid@gmail.com, and I'm going to put in the mail a gift certificate, assuming that you do end up being the top super chat. So thank you everybody for putting up with the sound issues in the very beginning. I'm glad I was able to sort those out. And thank you for joining me for the super chat. I want to end off here with a little reminder to hit that sub button. I think we're running at 28% subscribers of people who watch. Come on over to Facebook, ben.o.cichlid. By the way, answer all the questions if you want to get into the Facebook group, especially the one about the rules. If you don't answer yes to the question on the rules, that the moderators don't let you in. Come on over to Instagram, ben.o.cichlid, for some behind the scenes previews, things like that. I really appreciate that. And I think that's it. I think that's all we got. Thank you so much for those of you who have visited the store and picked up stuff from Amazon and also from our Teespring store. I want to thank my wonderful moderators and my friends at Elite Cichlids, Expertmatic, Underwater Galleries, who sent me a few boxes I'll be opening next week. And of course, my friend James Largo over at the Cichlid Shack. You are the best, my friend. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to my wonderful moderators. And thank you to everybody that's here today. And you are very, very appreciated. I hope to see you next week. And tomorrow, I'm going to release a video on the comments that you made in the survey about worst mistakes you've made as a fish keeper. I'm going to be posting your comment and talking about your comments for those of you that responded to that survey that occurred both at Facebook and also at YouTube. All right? At the YouTube community channel. Thank you, folks. I appreciate it. And that's it for me. Bye-bye.